Hey, what's up? I'm kind of bored, so let's film a video. Hi there, thank you for watching. In today's video, I'm going to be doing some quick reviews of everything that I've watched in the last couple months, so May and June. All of the TV shows and movies that I watched, we're gonna briefly talk about them. Hopefully you can get some recommendations from this or know which things you should be avoiding. Let's start out with the movies. So first of all, I watched this movie called The Humans. I can't recall what this was on at the time. I want to say it was Prime or something like that, but this movie was definitely giving like a deep psychological like play vibes. Basically it was about this family and they are at the one daughter's apartment in New York, and the whole movie takes place in the apartment. It's just this family interacting with each other and having these very like normal experiences. It has what's her name, Beanie something, who's Jonah Hill's sister, and probably some other actors that you would recognize. I would consider this more like an indie film. Like, it's a little bit boring. It's one of those things where it's like, where is this going? And then it ends up having more of a deeper message. It does have a bit of an ominous tone. It's a little bit creepy, but I'm not going to reveal obviously what happened. This movie was just kind of okay. I feel like it kept me engaged the whole time because there is something interesting about just like watching these normal people have these different interactions. Oh, Amy Schumer is also in it, that's right, but definitely not like a favorite or must watch or anything. Then we have Moulin Rouge. So in May I actually went to New York and watched the musical on Broadway, and I had never seen the movie, so when I got back home I did watch this movie. It is very weird. It's directed by Baz Luhrmann, who I think that's his style, to just go very above and beyond, be very extravagant. There's a lot of CG. There's a lot of CGI for like all of the backgrounds of Paris. It's definitely a little bit dated. I think it came out in like 2001 or something like that. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but I think if you are like a musical lover or a Broadway lover, you may as well watch it because it's a bit of a classic. But it's definitely more of like a parody movie. It has a lot of tropes and it sort of does that on purpose. Most of the songs are kind of like covers instead of originals, which is sort of unique about this musical. I feel like I did like the Broadway musical better than the movie though. Then I also watched New Mutants. This is a like X-Men movie, kind of like a superhero movie, and I feel like it got really bad reviews when it first came out, and I think that's kind of why I didn't prioritize watching it until now. But we decided to watch it and we're pleasantly surprised. It kind of has a fun premise where we're following these, maybe it's like 4 or 5 teenagers who are in this like mental institution, I guess, but actually they have powers, which is kind of a trope I've seen quite a few times, and I think it's very fun. And so basically these kids are like interacting with each other. Some of them are falling in love, and then they're also kind of trying to escape, and there's some like creepy stuff going on. Like obviously there's a villain, but I actually think that it was a pretty fun movie, and probably even for people who aren't big on superhero stuff. So I actually would recommend this one, especially if you were kind of avoiding it due to the bad reviews. It actually was not bad. Then I watched the second Doctor Strange movie, which I don't even remember what the subtitle to this movie was, but I saw it in theaters and I feel like I was not as impressed by it as I wanted to be. I think the Marvel movie before this that came out was the Spider-Man 3 movie that everyone loved, and that was excellent. And I just feel like after that hype, I don't know, this like let me down like a little bit. But yeah, it's basically Doctor Strange going on like another adventure. This new character was introduced, America, and she was interesting, I guess. We also got to see Scarlet Witch a lot in this, which honestly I was just kind of over her as a villain. I feel like after watching WandaVision, like I'm kind of over her story and everything, so I'm glad that kind of got wrapped up. There was a little bit of like multiverse stuff going on, which was kind of cool, but also just like not that interesting to me with who they chose to show. So this was kind of just like an average film, and like by the end I was like, okay, like please just end. Okay, then I watched There's Someone Inside Your House, and I also read this book, so I feel like my memory of it is not super clear. Like, I kind of remember the book more than the movie, but it is a like thriller or like slasher movie. Honestly, it wasn't that good. It's just very like basic, and then because I read the book, I was constantly comparing and noticing all the changes that they made, and there was a lot. In fact, they actually changed who the killer was, and I just wasn't really happy with the direction they went. It looks like it's cringe, and it really was cringe. Okay, then I watched The Village, which is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I do like him, but this movie was again just sort of so-so. I guess I didn't have the greatest movie months recently. This is basically about a village. There's this sort of like lore around it where there are these creatures that are like attracted to the color red or something, so they have to like hide any color of red, and basically they can't enter the woods. They like can't leave the village for these like ominous reasons, but eventually like the characters do. This clearly didn't stick with me. It was just an okay movie. Okay, then I watched Atonement, and this is one I really do have opinions on. I decided to watch this because I saw on a TikTok that it had a good plot twist at the end, and that's something I really love in movies, is plot twists. It takes place like in World War I or II or something, but before that we're following this like rich British family, and there's this young girl played by Saoirse Ronan, and then she has an older sister played by Keira Knightley, and Keira Knightley is having this sort of love affair with what's his name, James McAvoy, kind of like a secret thing because he is like not as rich as her. He's kind of like their servant boy, and you kind of see Saoirse Ronan's character kind of like observing that. Then they have some other family members and some other guests over for dinner or whatever, and then a young girl that's there ends up getting sexually assaulted, and Saoirse Ronan's character says that she thinks it is James McAvoy, and so he gets arrested. So that little couple gets torn apart, and then they end up both going into the war and kind of meeting up there again, and then we're just kind of following all of these people's lives throughout the war and as they get older. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but I really did not like the ending. I feel like I could see it coming, which is maybe because I knew it had a plot twist. Maybe if you are not expecting it, it would be better. But for one thing, it wasn't that shocking. For another thing, it's just so upsetting, and not even in a way where it's like, oh, it's upsetting, but it's good. Like, it just wasn't good, and they used the sexual assault as a plot device, and I really did not like that. The victim, I think, was really mistreated in this, and it really bothered me, and it was a really boring, slow movie, and the end was just not a good payoff for what we had to go through. Then I watched The Rental. This was directed by Dave Franco, so it had Alison Brie in it. It also had the guy that plays Lip in Shameless, so I was interested in watching this, and it was sort of like a thriller that had the very basic trope of these people going to this house and then weird things are happening, whether it's like a haunting or like a break-in. It ends up being these two couples that go. Yeah, as I said, pretty basic. Like, there's some cheating going on, there's some like, you know, their dog disappears, there's some weird stuff going on. Again, I feel like the ending wasn't great. I didn't love what ended up happening. I feel like there was potential for some cooler twists to go on than what there were, but I still do think it was entertaining to watch. During it, it just had a letdown of an ending. Then I watched The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. Honestly, I don't remember a ton of this, as I was actually kind of intoxicated and tired when I watched it, but the main takeaway from this for me was that it wasn't that great considering how good the trailers were. I feel like they put all of the funny bits in the trailer, and the way they edited the trailer made it so much more funny than what the actual movie was. But I will say, like, I wasn't really watching in my right mind, so maybe that was why. Then I have the two most recent movies that I watched. The first one was Along for the Ride on Netflix, which is based off the Sarah Dessen book. She writes a lot of YA contemporary books. I never read this book, so I couldn't compare, but I wanted to watch the movie because it just gave me like classic YA coming of age and like romance vibes, and I just kind of wanted that comfort, and I feel like it did deliver on that. Like, it was again very basic. It was not serving any sort of spice or flavor or anything sort of revolutionary at all. We're just following this girl who graduates high school, and she didn't really have the high school experience that she wanted. She was just very studious and focused on her future rather than her social life or her love life. So the one summer she goes to stay with her dad, which is on this like beachy beach town. And of course the dad is like a deadbeat, like older dad, but then he has this young hot wife who has a new baby, a lot of those tropes. And then she ends up connecting with this sort of troubled, I'm not gonna say emo, but like quiet skater guy, biker I should say, in the town. That's the romance. She makes some friends, has some different experiences. You get it. It was fun. The last movie that I watched was My Fake Boyfriend. This was on Prime, I think. It has, I forget his name, Keenan something. He was in Love, Simon. It also has Dylan Sprouse and Sarah Hyland. So that cast definitely attracted me, and then the actual premise was definitely silly but entertaining. It's about the main character who is gay, and he's seeing this guy who just keeps on cheating on him and mistreating him, and our main character really wants like a committed relationship. So the friends, Dylan Sprouse and Sarah Hyland, like they're together and they decide to help him by creating this fake boyfriend persona that essentially is just on social media. He's like a deep fake, like a fake face, fake personality, whatever, that the friends are controlling to make everyone think that he has this amazing boyfriend and to like scare off that cheater boyfriend that he kept going back to. It's a comedy, it's silly, but it's cute. I think it's just like a kind of fluffy thing to put on. Yeah, nothing to be taken too seriously. Okay, then we have the TV shows that I watched. So first up we have The Flash, the newest season of The Flash. I think it's like 8 or 9 or something. This is the fastest man alive, superhero, whatever. This was a great show to start with. If you're into superhero shows, definitely watch it. But these last couple seasons are just not hitting. There's the odd episode that's good. You know, there's still some fun characters on there. But yeah, something is just not hitting. And this season had this weird thing where there was no clear like arc to it. There sometimes was like no clear villain, and then a lot of the villains and storylines I feel were kind of recycled from previous seasons. I don't even know how to explain this show, but it's not giving what I wanted to give anymore. I did watch some of the newest season of Riverdale. I'm not caught up, so that's definitely going to be the next thing that I work on, is catching up there. At this point, I'll just say like it has gone the supernatural direction, which I feel like the writers have been wanting to do for a while. And I'm actually gonna say that I have been enjoying the most recent episodes, and I'm dealing with these sort of supernatural things. I feel like the show got so crazy and ridiculous that it sort of just needed to happen, honestly. And I feel like it's a little bit refreshing and kind of interesting. Definitely just like a weird, ridiculous show, but I still feel like you can find entertainment from it. Then This Is Us finished. This was so emotional for me. I ended up binging a lot of the last episodes back to back, and I feel like that is the way to go. I just feel like it's such an emotional impact that it's gonna have on you. If you don't know, this is like a generational story about this one family, and it's just so beautiful. And I love that it just focuses on simple, real life issues that happen to people. It doesn't get crazy like Riverdale or something where it's unrealistic. Like it deals with, you know, your parents aging, getting sick, passing away. It deals with you struggling with parenting, growing apart from your spouse, getting divorced, finding a new partner, like all of these very basic things. Again, I feel like it's a very refreshing thing to see on TV, and I hope there's another show like this one day. But it had a very beautiful, emotional ending, and I feel like it really is one of the greatest shows. I wish that it would keep going. Like I want to keep seeing the main character's kids. I want it to keep going on, you know what I mean? Then I watched Marvel's Moon Knight. Now this is a superhero show that I really had no idea about. Like Moon Knight, I think, is a pretty obscure superhero. It's not like Spider-Man or something that everyone knows, and this was a roller coaster. We're following this guy, and he's British and kind of has this dead-end job, whatever. He starts seeing like these supernatural creatures and weird things start happening, and then we see that he has this alternate personality that is like American and is more like tough and more of like the superhero persona. So it deals with this multiple personalities that this man has, and it also deals with like Egyptian lore. Egyptian mythology is like the base of this plot. Some episodes were really boring and I wasn't really loving, and then some episodes were like really good when it got into the psychological stuff, when it got into like the characterization of the main guy. But I find more of the like plot stuff with the gods and all that to be the more boring part. But yeah, it's kind of like a superhero show, kind of like a psychological thriller. So pretty cool, a little bit different than some of the other Marvel superhero shows. Then of course, I watched the newest season of Stranger Things. Season 4, oh my god. The first volume, I was loving it for the most part. At first, I didn't love the introduction of all these new characters. I felt like they were getting way too much screen time and not enough was given to our main characters. I feel like that kind of did continue actually throughout the season, but at least I grew to like the character of Eddie. But certain characters like Will, Mike, Jonathan, like it definitely was upsetting to see them get so sidelined this season, as everyone's saying. I don't know if there's anything new to really say about this, but I still overall really enjoyed this season, especially volume 1. I feel like the big reveal at the end of the villain, like I had figured it out at that point, but it was still very cool. Obviously the big scene with Max and running up that hill was like very intense. Like there was some great visuals and stuff. I continue to love seeing certain characters like Steve, who's my favorite. Volume 2, I felt a little bit let down. There still were some very good sequences, but by the end, certain things I didn't love. And I have to say the storyline in Russia, like terrible. Like some scenes, it was just like, can we get back to our main crew? Like, I don't know. There's just some calls that were made that I wasn't obsessed with. But overall, still loving it. Still can't wait for the next season. Then I've been watching Superman and Lois. Not a ton to say about this one. I feel like I'm still really enjoying it. I don't know if there's anything to say. Then we watched season 2 of the Flores Lava. This is a very random show for me to watch, but it's very similar to Wipeout, where we have these different teams that are trying to make it across this room that is full of lava, and they're trying to climb over like different obstacles and different like pieces of furniture and stuff like that, and they win a prize at the end, whatever. It's very basic, but for some reason I just enjoy it. And now it's like a tradition for me to watch it with my boyfriend. We just like binge each season when it comes out. There's only been 2, but it's kind of like a fun, nothing, quick thing if you want to put on with the family, I guess. Similar to how something like Wipeout used to be. Another show I really loved was Love on the Spectrum US. I watched the Australian version last year or 2 years ago or whatever. It's a really great show that focuses on people who are on the autism spectrum trying to find love. They did a US version. I forget where it was, if it was in California or something. This is always such a fun show. They choose such interesting, charming people to feature on the show, and it's also very eye-opening if you don't know a ton about like autism and what it's like to live on the spectrum. Really recommend. It's very well produced and edited as well. As soon as an episode ends, it just makes you want to keep watching. Like you have to just binge this show. Another superhero show I finished was Daredevil. I finished up season 3, which is the final season unless they bring it back, which apparently they are. Unfortunately, I think season 2 is my favorite. In season 3, Matt, which is our main character, Daredevil, he's basically a blind superhero. He was really annoying me. I was kind of on the fence about him the entire show because I do think the actor is really attractive. That's like one of the main draws for me to this show, but his actual character is actually really annoying. And then we had the villain Kingpin come back. He was in season 1, he came back in season 3 because he was just in jail, and I don't like him very much. Like I can see the appeal of him as a villain, but he gets too much screen time. I don't really enjoy him. I just hated seeing him again. There's another character I really hated that was really evil, and then there was another character that I really liked. I don't know, it kind of had a good end for the series, but I feel like season 2 was better. Okay, a show I only watched 1 episode of was First Kill. Basically, this is about a lesbian couple. One of them is a vampire, one of them is a vampire hunter. Sounds really fun, sounds really up my alley. Unfortunately, I watched the first episode and it was really terrible. The way that it was put together, the production, I can't remember the acting. Some of the acting was cringe, but a lot of it was the production. For example, they put this really annoying loud music on the back of every single scene, in the background of every single scene, and sometimes you just need quiet in certain scenes. So I don't know, I only watched the first episode. I do kind of want to continue the show, but the first episode was not very promising. If you've watched it, let me know if it gets better. It could be something like Shadowhunters that started off really bad and then got a little better. Another show I've been watching is Good Trouble. I've talked about this a lot on my channel whenever I do these videos, so I don't think I have to say too much, but it's about all these individuals living in LA, and it's such a unique show, and it continues to give me what I want. It has kind of like thrillery mystery elements in a way, but at the end of the day, it's just dealing with these characters who are going through all of these real life things and things that don't really get covered in a lot of other shows that I've seen. It's very diverse, it's very moving, it's still going strong, it's still really good. Then I binged the final season of Love, Victor. The third season came out and it was the final season, and I was really upset about that. I feel like this show could have gone on longer. For example, it was very rushed, and it could have been better if it was not so rushed. But this is about a young gay boy. In the beginning, he's like coming to terms with his sexuality. By season 3, you know, he's out and proud. And then it's about some of his other friends and the rest of his family as well. They all have their own things going on. This was great, but I do see why some people find it a little problematic, as it's like a gay show, but like made by straight people is what I've heard. And like basically almost all the actors are straight as well, which I get why people wouldn't like as much. It's not really as authentic feeling. I still liked it, but I can definitely understand why something like Heartstopper is so much better and like so much more authentic, as it is made by like actual queer people. But yeah, there were definitely some things I wish they had done differently in this show, and maybe they could have done if they had more time, but they obviously didn't. They wanted to end the show. I still think it was good. I still think it's worth watching if you want like a fun, deep, queer show. But yeah, I had a little bit of mixed feelings on this final season. Then I watched The Summer I Turned Pretty, one of the favorite things that I watched in these last couple of months. I also binged this. It's based off of a book series that I have almost completed. It's again serving those classic YA coming of age love story, love triangle vibes, and I was here for it. It's really great if you just want to escape. We're following our main character Belly, who her family is friends with this other family, and they always go to this summer house every summer, and so you're seeing both of their families. You get to follow the two moms who are best friends and have some storylines going on there. They actually built on the mom storylines more from the book, and I really appreciated that. And then the teen storylines, a lot was able to be added there as well, but essentially there's a lot of like romance, friendship stuff going on there. It was so good. Like at first it's a bit cringe. At first some of the acting is questionable, but as you go on, like it just gets so great. I really enjoyed it. There definitely is changes from the book, but I think they were all done well, and they kind of updated it because those books are quite old now. They did a good job of sticking to a lot of themes, but updating things to just make them more current and more relatable for teenagers today. Highly recommend. And then the last thing is Legacies season 4 has ended, and it also ended the entire show and ended the whole TVD verse. This was a spin-off of Vampire Diaries and the originals that followed Hope Michelson, the daughter of Klaus, along with some other characters that were kids of people from the Vampire Diaries, and it followed the Salvatore School for Supernatural Beings. So it was really fun that it followed a bunch of like werewolves, witches, vampires, having this like teen drama, and then also fighting, you know, these supernatural bad guys. Unfortunately, I feel like the writing didn't live up to its full potential. The concept of the show is so good, and it had a few good seasons, but I do feel like the writing was lacking towards the end. So yeah, I feel like this show ended too soon as well, getting canceled, but I think they did what they could to make the ending special. It definitely was like an emotional ending and wrapped up pretty nicely with bringing back some old cast members. But yeah, I'm definitely upset about this show ending, as it's been one of my favorites to watch for the last few years, and it's the end of the Vampire Diaries verse, and I would have liked to see more of the old cast members return someday, or I just would have liked to see these characters continue on a little longer, but alas, CW is being sold or something, so like so many of their shows are being canceled. That is the end of everything I watched. Hopefully these reviews were quick enough that it's not too boring or meandering, but this is everything I watched in May and June. Please subscribe for more TV and movie recs in the future, and let me know your thoughts on any of these things if you've watched them, and if you have any recs for me. See you next time. Bye.